And my last question in this section, how do you feel people view you when they learn that you're an international student from Palestine?
I guess the first reaction is like, that's very cool. Like, you came all the way from Palestine, from Pakistan to come here. I'm like, almost, almost right. So I like how people like appreciate how it is difficult to move away from home and come here and be without your family here and stuff, without my family and stuff like that. But I also don't think that Americans benefit from having international students on campus as they should. Um, I know my friends have been thinking about going abroad because of how they met me and all the other international students and stuff like that. So it motivated a lot of them to travel. I had one of my friends go study in Cyprus last semester, and because she knew me, she went to Israel Palestine and went through the whole. Uh, I'm pro-Israeli until I went to Israel Palestine and then became pro-Palestinian, and I'm like, you're not the only one, but like so I like that. I don't like how we're sometimes treated as exotic on campus. Like, oh, he's an international student. That's so cool. I'm like, I'm a normal person, just with a different culture. That's all. Um, um, I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to ask like some of my friends what they think about having an international student around. But that's what I think. I think that they appreciate the journey, but don't really benefit from it as taken as an example. As you should get out of your comfort zone. Still have a lot of friends that never left Virginia, and stuff like that. So I mean, DC doesn't count, right? so so it's interesting. Mm.
So they think it's cool, but like don't go any further.
Yeah, and I just like, yeah, and I'm like, well, you see how awesome it is. You said it's awesome that I'm like I left my family, I went somewhere. You actually have the absolute freedom to do so. Just go, and you don't have to travel abroad. I mean, America is so huge. Just go to another state, just like West Coast or something like that, or Florida, or something like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So moving on to the next section, and these two sections go really fast, so
Okay.
we'll try to wrap it up. So how do you feel on Bridgewater's campus, like versus how you felt
Mm.
to now?
Um,
That's changed.
Bridgewater campus has definitely changed me as a person. I used to be a very, very shy freshman. I'm not anymore. Definitely not a freshman anymore. But I'm not. It took me out of my comfort zone. I was empowered a lot by the students that I had around my freshman year, and the professors and the advisors that I had here. Um, so I um, remember the first time I complained about something in the KCC, and how once I complained about it, it was solved. And then I was like, wait, you're telling me I have this much power? Really? So the next week I started the Muslim Student Association, and it was great. People were coming up to events and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. The year after, I started the Model United Nations Club, and I helped with the Diversity League and stuff like that. So I liked how you can, I guess, find yourself on this campus. Like, there's a lot of advisor, a lot of people that are trying to help, do their best to help you and make you the person you want to be. I think you just have to take the first step towards it, and I really, really appreciate how Bridgewater really helps you mold who you are. Um, on the other side, um, I don't think everyone's voice is being heard. A lot of people opt to not share their opinions on things, not to be called out on their ignorance or their misunderstanding of certain issues. Personally, I've dealt with that in my Muslim Student Association events. We opened it for questions and answers after every event, and in the beginning we wouldn't get any questions. We wouldn't have people ask anything, which I was surprised because I knew people had some thoughts about Islam that needed to be changed, but I couldn't really force them to ask the questions. So what I did, excuse me, is offer anonymous questions. So we just like gave pieces of paper and pens to people that were in the event to ask the questions, and that's when we started getting the real questions. How are you a Muslim when your religion tells you to fight everyone around you? Why don't you follow that? Or why do Muslims force women to cover themselves and stuff like that? So I feel like people were just afraid to ask these questions face to face because of how they were afraid to be seen on campus, which I think is a very, very damaging phenomenon to have, because if you're an educational institution and you can't really voice your opinion, you won't have the challenge to change your opinion. And I feel a lot of the responsibility falls on student leaders on campus. I think we should be focused on creating a campus where people can voice their opinion without being scared of people's reaction, in order to deal with ignorance or misconceptions or stuff like that. But if people are afraid to say what they think, then we will be living in a fake utopia where we think people are, oh, no one is racist, no one is sexist, no one is homophobic, no one is xenophobic. But that's only because we don't hear about it. But if we hear about it, then we can fight it. But if we're gonna just hide it, then it's just, we live in a fake utopian community. And that's how I see it. I talked to people about that before, and I know people don't agree with me on that. People, I think, prefer to live in a fake utopian society, in my opinion, rather than actually fighting these misconceptions. So I think that's the only criticism that I have of the Bridgewater community. Other than that, it's my second home. I opted in to stay both summers here that I spent. I spent both summers on campus, working with people on campus. So I love it here.
Cool. So I don't think we have much time left, so I want to get to the last section, future plans.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you, like, do you see yourself staying in the United States or visiting again, if that's a possibility? I know it's kind of like...
Yeah. So, being from Gaza, possibilities are all around the place. I literally have 20 contingency plans for my future, and each one of them has a different opinion on what I'm going to do with the United States. Like, am I going to stay here? Am I going to leave? Am I going to become a citizen or something like that? So it's all, like, very different. It all depends on what happens back home, what happens with my family, what happens with what I want to work and stuff like that. Like, for example, when I first came in here, I wanted to stay in the U.S. and work with the Palestinian embassy in the U.S. However, President Trump closed the Palestinian embassy. There is no Palestinian embassy anymore. So now I don't feel the same feeling of how much I wanted to stay in the U.S. Now I'm like, I could leave, I could stay, I'm not sure. I guess depends on if I get a job after graduation or go to grad school or something like that. If I don't stay here, I definitely visit. I have a lot of friends here and family here and that I would like to keep in touch with and stuff like that. So definitely a place where I would want to come back to and visit.
Thank you. And so how do you see this experience in education supporting those 20 different plans?
You mean in Bridgewater education?
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
your experience here in the US.
Very, very helpful. I have a great advisor that is helping me with all 20 of my plans. Like, we're setting them up and stuff like that. The career services are just amazing people that help you with things, help you get ready for the future. Also, my education here has been phenomenal. I like the liberty of studying on our own, but at the same time being instructed on what path or how we should study and stuff like that. Like, I feel I created my own curriculum rather than I had professors teach me what to study and stuff like that, because of how open, like, what research we can do, we're allowed to do. So that helped me focus on studying more about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and become more knowledgeable about it, and that will definitely help me with my future because all 20 plans kind of revolve around the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So that's very helpful. My education here has been very, very helpful for that.